Welcome to Newmarket Vox. I'm Mark Knopf-Thomas. Newmarket is New Zealand's retail, fashion, hospitality, entertainment and business mecca. Newmarket Vox is a monthly podcast where we take a deep dive into the mind of a business leader. Coming up after the interview will be some updates on what's happening in Newmarket, and also make sure you're following us on your favourite social media channel. Look for @NewmarketNZ.
The early heady days of laser hair removal were enormously challenging for us. How do you get it right where you can empower women without disadvantaging men? Every problem also brings an opportunity.
Opening the first ever clinic right here in Newmarket back in 1994, the brand went on to become a much-loved household name across New Zealand, and now with 85 clinics around the country. The brand also had the first commercially available hair removal laser in the world. The brand, Caci Clinic. And today I'm joined by founder Caci Smith. Jackie, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions around your background, the business, your childhood, anything at all. So please feel free to share as much as you possibly can.
I will.
So to start off with, through those earlier years, what kind of led you towards the cosmetics industry?
Always interested in appearance, I guess, fashion, that kind of thing. But it was a journey getting to being what I think of as the aesthetics industry, really, more than cosmetics. I think cosmetics in my mind is really about makeup.
Okay.
And certainly our clinics are much more about healthy skin.
With you said the original clinic opened up right here in Newmarket in 31 years ago this year. Yeah. What drove you to start that business? So what was the thinking behind that, and talk about that, then also the evolution since those early days?
My husband and I have both been overseas, David. We came back to New Zealand with a piece of technology out of the UK called a Caci non-surgical facelift, and it was a muscle toning machine. We'd managed to acquire the distribution rights for Australia and New Zealand on that piece of technology. And David was really the commercial brains to start with. He'd done an MBA when we were living in the Channel Islands. I had shifted from nursing at that point in time into the business world and had been working for a computer company. So when we came back to New Zealand, it was really, well, we've got the rights to this piece of technology. What are we going to do with it? So really, we just jumped in at the deep end.
So back in those early days, you opened the first clinic in Newmarket and then you expanded the business. So what was the driving strategy behind the expansion?
So quite quickly, we had people knocking on our door saying, I want to do what you're doing. And so we had a decision to make at that point, which was, are we going to sell these machines to other people, or are we going to build a franchise? And we went down the franchise route. So we started quite quickly, we're adding services into our offering beyond the Caci non-surgical facelift or the facial toning. And hair removal we knew was a thing. We knew it was something that bothered people, that was complicated. There were problems to solve in that space. And David's a bit of a terrier, really. When he gets on to something, he won't let it go, and he digs and digs and digs and digs. And while we've been playing around with what does non-needle or non-electrolysis hair removal look like, he came up with the research that was going on in Wales at that time with lasers and hair removal.
I'm from Wales. I was actually born in Wales, funnily enough.
Oh, yes, I did read that, yes.
Yeah. So you and David set up the company all those years ago. So are you still working together as a team? Has it still been an ongoing sort of business relationship?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a firm believer, like teams is my thing. And David and I have definitely been a team. We're quite bring quite different things to the business. I now but neither of us are operationally involved in the business at all.
Yep.
We had investors come in a couple of years ago, and I sit on the board. I'm chair of the board, but other than that, we're not involved in the operational part of Caci anymore.
So running a business, as we know, is not a straight line. It's a roller coaster. So how have you together navigated the sort of the rises, the peaks and the troughs of the business over the years?
You say you have good days and bad days. I say you have good months, even good years and bad years.
Yeah.
And bad's are kind of an interesting perspective as well, because every problem also brings an opportunity, and so it's finding where the gold is in the problem that you can then turn around and use to your advantage. The early heady days of laser hair removal were enormously challenging for us. Enormously rewarding, but very challenging. You know, the machines were unreliable. They were constantly breaking down. We had nobody in the country that was able to service them. But solving all of those problems gave us a huge lead in the market. So it was worth it.
Going back to those days when you managed to sort of get access or to grab yourself that commercially available hair removal laser, that would have been quite a feat internationally to have achieved that.
Yes, in those days you had to get on a plane and go and see people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, which is exactly what David did.
So these days, obviously, hair removal is just, it's very mainstream. It's all over the place. Yes. But so you sort of really pioneered that.
We pioneered the commercial application of it, and I think that that's one of the Caci Clinic's core competencies, if you like, is taking a piece of technology and actually making it something that is useful to a consumer. So you often see somebody has invented something, and you think that's amazing, and then you never hear anything more about it, and it's because the technology is only the first part. Being able to translate that piece of technology into something that actually works for customers and actually bring it to market is a whole different skill set. And I think that that's something that we've been able to do really effectively.
And now it's so mainstream. So, I mean, most people...
Hair removal is,
really is. So what sort of trends have you seen in the aesthetic sector in terms of how have things changed over the years?
I think increasingly people are starting to realise that aesthetics is not vanity. You know, that it's linked in with mental health, and that wanting to look our best is actually part of the human condition. And we all care. I mean, we were just talking about your jacket a minute ago. You know, you're a man that cares about the way that you look. Everybody does, to a greater or lesser degree. So things like neuromodulators or Botox is, the brand name that everybody recognises. There's people that hate it, and I don't know why they hate it. I think it's because they think it's about vanity, and they go, oh my God, you wouldn't do that. But actually, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you have a more relaxed looking face? Because people respond better to you when you look better. It's not about beauty. It's about how you present yourself and the image that you want to present.
And I guess the technology and the, what's happening in that sector is improving all the time. So, some of those earlier days with some of the Botox, we saw lots of examples on Botox in Hollywood where things have gone a bit crazy. And now it's just so natural looking. It's amazing.
So the acceptance of aesthetic treatments is one thing. That's one change over time. So we would have customers that would not tell anybody that they were visiting a Caci clinic, whereas now I think that's changed quite a lot. People are quite comfortable coming into a Caci clinic, and we've worked quite hard to make that happen and be really deliberate about making it a place where people feel easy and comfortable walking into. So that's one thing. I think the The service providers is another thing that we've pioneered. So in the very early days, particularly with injectable treatments, it was doctors that were providing those treatments. And what we realised is that this was a space that was really built for nurses. Now, I'm not saying that doctors aren't amazing at doing these kind of services, because a number of them really are.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that it's a really good space for nurses to work in as well. And so what we've demonstrated for nurses is that they can work in a commercial space and deliver a really high level service, and that they are able to work independently in that space as well. So I think that's a way that's an area that Caci clinics have pioneered.
Yeah, I guess too, in those earlier days, that the going to somewhere like Caci Clinic would have been largely the domain where women would go. And over the years, I mean, more and more men are getting involved and getting treatments done now. What sort of percentage would you say of clients would be men?
Less than 10%. It depends on the services. Hair removal is different. There'll be more men in that space. In the aesthetic space, I think that's changing, and it's slow to change. I think that the aesthetics industry is largely oriented towards women, and so men don't necessarily feel comfortable in that space or feel like it's something for them. Men are meant to pretend that they don't care about the way that they look, but they do. So injectables are a really good example of things that fit a kind of male psyche, and they're relatively quick. You can get a good outcome from them, and nobody actually really needs to know. So a guy can come in and have a bit of, Botox or one of the other products that are similar to that, and none of their mates are going to go, "Oh my God, you've had something done."
Yeah.
They feel better, but they don't have to feel embarrassed about it.
I think probably, from what I can see, that younger people probably are a bit more open-minded possibly to some of these things than older generations.
Maybe. We still have women that come in and say, "I don't want my kids to know. If my kids know that I'm going to be doing this, they're going to be at me." And and actually, this is a line that people get is, "I love you the way that you are."
Yeah.
You don't have to do that stuff. I love you the way that you are. Actually, it's not about you. It's about me and how I feel. And the way that I feel like I represent the world.
If you hadn't decided back in those early days to get into the aesthetic sector, what else do you think you'd have got into?
I'm still quite passionate about healthcare, and I think there's a lot of work to be done there. I believe that nurses have a bigger role to play in healthcare and how that can be delivered. And I think one of the things that I'm really proud of in the Caci clinics is that we have a lot of nurses that effectively work independently in those clinics, and we've proven that kind of model can work. So a lot of our franchisees are nurses, and they run a business and they manage their staff and they deliver aesthetic services. And I think that can be translated into various areas of healthcare and make some healthcare services more accessible.
I guess too that, having nurses involved in the business like Caci Clinic gives it so much more credibility in terms of people going there. It's a trusted environment to be in because the people are trained professionals and they know what they're doing.
Nurses are probably one of the more trusted professions. I think that's been shown, over and over again. And that's because nursing largely comes out of, it's a caring profession. It's about caring.
What do you think are some of the new trends that are coming through in the aesthetic sector?
There's an avalanche of information that's really hard for people to filter. And if you think about generally what the outcome people are looking for, our customers are looking for, is what we call skin confidence. And we don't really have to think about your skin too much, where you can just get up and feel like you've got your face represents who you are and get on with your day. And that's very liberating. The thing is that now there are multiple pathways to that skin confidence, and no organisation or no person can offer all of those pathways and be good at it. So it's beholden on us at Caci to understand that that scenario of multiple pathways, but to be the filter, to pick out what are the services that are most likely to get our customers to where they need to be, and then to be true deep experts in those things and not try to be all things to everybody across everything.
I guess you must have had direct hands-on experience watching the transformation of people when they come in for treatment and they just keep getting better, and their confidence levels must just keep rising. Can you tell us about that?
There was a client that was coming to me for one treatment. That was when I was actually treating customers. And I asked her about a little divot that she had on her cheek and suggested that I could help make that look a little better if that was bothered her. And it really upset her because her ex-husband had done that to her. He'd broken her cheekbone years ago. She'd actually come to New Zealand to get away from him. And every morning when she looked in the mirror, she saw that divot in her cheek. And being able to take that away with a little bit of filler was, again,
it's amazing.
Wow, and what a wonderful thing to be able to do. It made me feel tremendous, and it made her feel a lot better. So it's great.
Going back to 1994, and you decided to open up the business in Newmarket. Why did you choose Newmarket?
There were two sites that we thought at that time was Takapuna and Newmarket. Newmarket seemed to be pretty accessible to the rest of Auckland. We really liked it. It was thriving, and basically the right kind of premises came up. So that Newmarket it was.
I think it's true though, because Newmarket geographically is quite blessed for accessibility to the south and to the east of the city. Yeah,
it's also there's a bit of aspiration there as well. It's a nice suburb. Yeah.
I love to hear that. It's music to my ears. Can I ask you some sort of few personal things now around? So what are some bucket list items you've got on your life list to tick off?
Beyond family stuff, of course, that's I would say that having been a business owner, you often compromise on family, which isn't a really great thing.
Yeah.
And so I think there's things that I kind of want to, I want to be around my grandchildren, for instance. My kids do love to tease me about the lack of attention that I applied at the time. I don't think that's really true, of course. But they know it's a point to needle me on. So.
Yeah. Are your kids based in Auckland?
They are for the moment, yes.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. They both have international partners. So, one is from London and one is from Australia. I love travelling.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of places that I still want to go. I love walking. And so walking in lots of places in the world are probably those two things combined kind of come together. And yeah.
Okay. Where's your most favourite place that you've been to?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I really love Spain.
Okay.
Yeah. We end up going back to Spain quite a lot.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Where in Spain in particular?
Okay. I love it all, actually. Yeah. And last October with a girlfriend, we did quite a big trip around Spain.
Yeah.
But we have friends that live in Girona, which is north of Barcelona.
Yeah.
And so we go there quite a bit. They live in New Zealand half the time and Girona half the time.
Do you have any regrets?
Everybody makes mistakes. And sometimes they're mistakes in judgment. Mostly it's a judgment thing, really. I wish I'd said this, or I could have done that, or you go down a pathway and then you think, no, that wasn't such a good idea. But I think if if you don't do that, then if you don't make mistakes, then you know you're not exploring enough, you're not getting out there enough and testing. I would say my biggest regret is we opened some clinics in London called Skinsmiths, and I loved them. I really did. You know, they were kind of Caci 2.0. They were so well received in London, and we got to 9 clinics. We had a 10th clinic fitted out, and then along came COVID. And I had to make a decision. At that point, I'd been going up to London probably every 6 weeks for a fortnight or so, and that wasn't possible. I didn't want to be there to live for a number of reasons, and we hadn't got them to the point where they were holding their own. Yeah. So we were having to put money into them. It was growing. Despite COVID, it was growing. But we still had to make a decision about, is this, the future was really uncertain. We didn't know whether we were all going to get another round of lockdowns COVID, and Brexit had just happened. And in the end, we pulled the plug.
What was different about Skinsmiths compared to Caci?
Relatively small things. You know, we took that culture that we talked about before, we took that. So I think in the UK there was this kind of like highbrow approach to aesthetics, and we took that real Kiwi, come on in, you know, you're most welcome to be here, make you feel really comfortable. This is for everybody. You know, I've always thought that our target customer is not the wealthy of the world or the special people of the world. It's school teachers and nurses and mums and, people like that. It's just regular people. That's where we've tried to design our service for. And that was tremendously well received in London, where everybody was trying to make it exclusive. So I always say our approach is inclusive, not exclusive.
Yeah, and accessible to everybody.
Very. Yeah. And then there were lots of little design elements. We didn't handle cash. Everything was just done by card or direct debit. That's part of our model as a membership model, and that was hugely well received. That being able to just feel like you had a plan and that the payment was all sorted for it, and you only had to make that decision once rather than, every time it was time for a visit, oh, should I go or shouldn't I go? Yeah. Should I spend that money this week or not spend that money this week? That was all sorted. So, those were all things that were really good about it.
Okay.
Just little things that. So in terms of the skincare products, we had a PlayStation in the middle of the clinic where everybody could just go and touch it instead of a shelf that feels like it's over there and maybe I shouldn't be touching it.
Okay. So you just sort of turned it on its head a little bit, the whole experience.
Just, small things, but it made a significant difference,
What's next for Jackie personally?
I've got some ideas about things. Like I said before, I'd like to play around in the healthcare space. Yeah. I've got some ideas about how that might happen. Really interesting to see what happens with AI getting into that space. Yeah. I think bureaucracy holds us back a lot, and there's a lot to fix in the healthcare sector, and everywhere, every country is struggling with. How do we provide better services? How do we get the new information that out to where it makes a difference to actual patients? I think part of that is around who does what, and people. There's always a little bit of a tension between doctors and nurses, and people often think that nurses are assistants to doctors, and I think that there's this huge overlap in capability between doctors and nurses, and I think if we can get doctors working in this space where they're focused on the things that only they can do, that nurses or other healthcare professionals can pick up and operate in areas where they're able to, then that could make a big difference to accessibility for services, particularly in primary healthcare.
So they have their own lane, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you do to relax?
Walk.
Yeah.
I try and meditate. I know I'm meant to, and I start off with a hiss and a roar, and do it for months, and then something gets in the way, and I stop for a while. But I do keep going back to meditating. I think it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
But I just love to get my shoes on and get out and walk, really.
And do you have any hobbies?
Beyond grandchildren and work.
Keeps you pretty busy.
Yeah. I potter around with a sewing machine and make bits and pieces, crafty kind of stuff. Where my biggest hobby at the moment is we have a house over in Waiheke that's being renovated, and so I'm working on that basically, what I want it to look like and the details of that. So.
Okay. Now, some quick fire questions to finish off with. This would be some favourites like books, movies, etc., etc. So what is your favourite book that you've read?
My favourite book? The most recent favourite book is a book called How Big Things Get Done. A really enlightening book about projects and why projects like the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao in Spain, why that was such a huge success, and it came in below budget, on time, and has delivered absolutely everything that they set out to deliver with that. It's transformed the city, or been part of the transformation of that city. Compared to something like the Opera House, which everybody knows was a complete cock case. I mean, it's a wonderful asset to Sydney now, but
it's quite a journey to get there.
It was hugely over budget, destroyed careers, all of that kind of thing. So that to, like renovating a kitchen, and how might you get that done? So the statistics are pretty shocking about projects and how rarely they come in on time and deliver what they're meant to do. I think one of the enlightening things in the book was about how often personalities that are involved in projects take it offline with the demands of politicians, that it's going to be their last great hurrah, that they're going to leave and they want things started tomorrow, and actually the planning needs to get done first.
Who's your favourite musician?
I have a lot. I like quite cruisy music, like James Blunt, that kind of thing, the kind of relaxing background kind of music. I'm pretty keen on Annie Lennox and a bit of a bit of a rave, like that kind of thing.
I love that.
Shania Twain, things that get you going when you had a couple of glasses of wine.
Well, that's
make you dance.
What's your favourite drink?
Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir, okay, great.
That's my go-to always.
Otago.
Yes.
What's your favourite time of the week?
Monday.
Yeah?
I love the start of the week. There's an anticipation when you get up on a Monday morning of things that you're going to do, and the week stretches out ahead of you.
Yeah.
It's like a mini beginning of the year, really, and you never quite get done. The list never gets done, right? You think you're going to get all this stuff nailed this week, and you never do.
Yeah.
But there's always next week, and next Monday morning you're around and you've still got a list.
To reset back to it, yeah.
Exactly.
And what's your favourite season?
It's a really good question. I do love summer. I really do love summer. I love the temperature, obviously, but I love the long days and
the light.
It's full of optimism, and there's great vegetables around, and you feel healthy, and eating salads and all of that kind of stuff. But every season is is really good. I love, a lit fire. We have a fireplace over in our Waiheke house.
Nice.
Lighting a fire and sitting there with a glass of wine and a few friends and a big sofa and that kind of thing is pretty cool as well. Or walking on the beach.
Jackie, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. It's been fantastic and I've learned a lot.
You're absolutely welcome. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Don't forget, coming up later this month on Sunday, the 23rd of February, we have the iconic Festival Italiano, where Newmarket gets transformed into Italy for the day. Street festivals in Nuffield Street, Osborne Street, Kent Street, and on Lumsden Green. And coming up also on the 2nd of March is the last of our Sunday sounds for live music on Lumsden Green. See you next month. Cheers.